All right. On today's podcast, we got Addison Johnson. Met him at the North Springs Music Festival. He was That was my first time getting to listen to him, and got to do that in person. So
Uh,
good to have you on, man.
Hey man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, North Springs is always special, man. That place is unique. It's unlike any festival that I play all year.
That's Was that your first time, or you've been there more
I've
than
kind of been
once?
there since the beginning. That
Okay.
was my fourth year playing it. I'm pretty sure there's only been probably one or two guys that have maybe done it longer than I have.
Hmm.
But it's just a really unique thing that Dustin Kennedy has done over the last few years. Everything is extremely organic and independent, from the vendors to the artists, obviously to the fans. Even just it's a really kind of special thing that you don't see a lot very much of anymore, just because of how corporate festivals have gotten and stuff. So it's really refreshing and always a weekend I look forward to.
That's good to hear from the artist side of that
Yeah,
too. Because like I'm in West Tennessee, I wish there was something like that in my area that was
sure.
supported like that.
Yeah,
Because one, just because there's so much good music to be heard, and then two, it's just a really cool thing. I don't even know where to start with something like that. So kudos
yeah.
to Dustin for going, for getting that going. And yeah, that was my first time being there. I haven't been to any festivals outside of the Memphis area, and like there's nothing wrong with the corporate ones necessarily,
No,
there is something extremely special about situations like that.
yeah,
Um,
no, for sure. Yeah, nothing wrong with them at all. I just think unique to that festival. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's about as organic as it gets, purely from the
mhm.
standpoint of you got all these big name independent guys coming to this hayfield out in the hills of Tennessee, and it's just a very you think of other festivals similar like Laurel Cove or something like that that kind of has that same spirit. I guess you can more or less say it feels very down home. It's usually the first cold weekend of the year, which it certainly was. And I don't know,
Mhm.
it's just got a different vibe to it. You got regular season festivals, and then you got playoff festivals, and it feels like it's got a little extra something to it.
And for folks that don't know what we're talking about, North Springs Music Festival is in Whitleyville, Tennessee, or North Springs Community, and what, like an hour outside of
Yeah.
Nashville, something like that.
Yep.
And basically about 15 minutes before you get there, you lose all contact with the outside world,
Yeah.
all cell service, which I think a lot of people enjoy that they're able to get there, disconnect from their phones, and listen to music, what it's really all about. So and the other, it's not exclusive to that festival, but it's nice when all this happens. The artists are able to just hang out, walk around,
Yep.
talk to everybody. They're just as much in front of the stage as they are behind stage. So
Absolutely. For
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
that's that's a really cool thing. And I've talked about this with other folks too, as from a fan's perspective. When they can shake hands and get a picture and this and that, it makes a difference. I don't know if it should make a difference in liking the music more, but it does make you pull for the artist even more when that openness is there.
Yeah, for sure, and that's something important to me, whether it's a festival or not. Just because like this is all it's all a partnership. It's a partnership between the artists and the fans. It's a partnership between the artists and the venue, and then the fan and the venue. Like it's all we're all there to help each other, to get something positive from the experience at its best. When all three of those things go well, like what we saw, this past weekend, that's when I feel like that this business can be a lot of fun, and when everybody's kind of getting what they want to get out of it.
And like I said, it's not necessarily exclusive to this one, to that festival, but there's a lot of artists that were in the crowd watching all the other artists too.
Yeah.
From an 18-year-old kid starting it off to Ward Davis that night. So that was cool to me to see guys supporting other artists, which I'm sure happens quite a bit. I'm new to that scene, so it just stood out to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's, like I said, I found your music because you've been on tour with, or you did some shows with Jason Eady.
Yep.
I'm supposed to have him on pretty soon, coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna head down to his festival in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. It's apparently I'm not the only one. Apparently some of the other guys jokingly call it Eady Fest.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, for sure. Yeah,
he's not saying that, but everyone else is. So I was calling it that, and then when I heard a couple other artists call it that, I'm like, okay, good. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So how did that connection? Because we'll back up a little bit, but how did that connection happen?
Yeah, when I first moved to town, to Nashville, I kind of came here trying to be a songwriter. That's what I originally came to try and be. And coming from just a small town in North Carolina, it's I know what everybody else knows, which is whatever your radio tells you, for the most part. And so,
Right.
Of course, I've heard of guys like Chris Knight and some guys like that, but never to any great extent. And so when I first got to Nashville, I sat in those writers' rooms and stuff like that, and kind of did the thing, and just wasn't in love with what I was doing necessarily. And I started I was working like every miserable job you could possibly think of, and I'll never forget. I started driving a forklift for this company out in Laverne, Tennessee, and I drive around all day, and I finally got me a Spotify account, and I got on there and just started kind of going through, Spotify radio, just like any fan or whatever would.
Right.
And I started finding guys like Jason Eady and like Hayes Carl and like Adam Hood and like Todd Snyder and, Chris Knight and so many of these guys. And, I just didn't realize that you could do whatever you wanted to do. And, I thought that we all had to play by the rules, and these guys were not playing by the rules, and that really excited me, not only as a fan, but it just exploded in my mind as a songwriter. So, I first came across these guys as a fan, but more than anything. And, there's been very few people that have meant more to my career personally than Jason Eady has. Not only his music, but how he's done his career and his business. He in my opinion is the definition of a troubadour. He is the definition of taking the long way around. And if you're going to take the long way around, it can be a brutal process, and you're going to watch your friends have lots of success before you ever even touch it. But when you do get it, like he's getting now by like standing in the circle at the Opry and just selling out all over the place, he owns every piece of what he has. It belongs to him. It's his career.
It's all on him.
He doesn't depend on anyone. We all have our circles, we all have our teams, but he doesn't really depend on any kind of machine to make his career go. And when you can do that, that's a really freeing thing when you talk about mixing business and art together, because those two things have a hard time living in the same way. So I just have a great admiration for how they've done things, and have tried to do things my own way, but in the spirit of kind of what they've done.
I'm sure you and them and everyone would like to have those songs go viral, and help your career and everything. But also, um, even if it were to go viral, the point of having a career, I think, is what, like you said, that's what they've been doing. All those guys you were mentioning, they're not trying to get a one hit wonder thing. They're making a career out of this thing. They're building a fan base with a extremely solid foundation, and going from there. And that's,
Yeah, yeah.
like you said, that's not always easy. There's a lot of empty rooms,
No, no, for
but
sure. And you look at these guys, that they've been, I'm going to sound like I'm aging them, but they were there before MySpace. They were there with MySpace. They were there with Facebook and Instagram, and
yeah,
now
you're
TikTok.
right.
Their careers have, not only thrived, or not only survived, but have thrived through all these different, obstacles of, CDs and streaming, and all this different process that kind of goes into this thing. And that's something that's really difficult to do. And the only way that you're able to do that is by having something real that connects to people on a foundational level. Because I know a lot of guys that do a lot of, and it's fine. Like I need to do probably some more singing to my phone than I do. I'm a very much like old school guy, where like I want to go play the shows. I want to see the people in person, kind of
Yeah,
thing. If I could go back and we start hanging flyers tomorrow, I probably would.
right.
But it's one of those things where I know a lot of guys that do a lot of singing to their phones that can't draw flies at a show, but they've got huge followings and stuff like that. And I think there's certainly a balance
A
there
balance.
with
Yeah.
with that to make it work.
I'm sure that falls more into the young man's game too, as far as the that's what they're used to.
Yeah, sure.
For me personally, like I was too scared to play a song and sing in front of people for a long time until I started playing online, and
Mhm.
then it got me to open up, like meeting
Sure.
people that enjoyed listening to me cover Adam Hood songs and whatever else.
Absolutely.
That made me want to actually. They gave me the to get up and actually try it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the balance. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think just about everybody in the business struggles with the social side of being active enough and still being creative on the other side too. It
Yeah, for
seems
sure.
like.
No, it's definitely something that like I personally need to get better at for sure. And that's the problem with this business on the independent side, man. Is you gotta be able to drive the van and sell the T-shirts and design the T-shirts and write the songs and produce the songs and record the songs and sing the songs and then turn that into a show that's going to be live. But you also need to have social media experience, and like it's great to be able to hire things for all this, but every time you hire somebody, you take money
So
away from something else that could be helping you further along. So it's just a very, you just kind of have to figure it out as you go, kind of thing, and find out what works best for you. What's important to you. Is it, is it having a big online presence? Is it making a living doing it? Is it, what's it mean to you?
so um, one of the things I've noticed from some of the guys that I've talked to out of the Nashville scene, uh, and then some of the guys that do, but I say the Texas scene, but that's the Texas scene is kind of, it can be a wide thing. It doesn't necessarily mean the Texas, because like you played with Eady, wasn't like in Georgia or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but it's still a similar thing,
Yeah.
compared to Nashville.
Sure.
Um, you're in Nashville and kind of in the thick of it, but you still kind of venture out. You leave from Nashville to go all to do your shows for the most part.
Yeah,
That's backwards from a lot of people, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. The only thing that lives here is my stuff.
Okay.
I think I think you spend your early years trying to get here. I think probably in previous decades and stuff, it was more important to be here than it is now. I think as a songwriter, like it's still important to be here,
I get that.
but it's still not a necessity by any stretch. I just think even as a young songwriter, like it was really important for me to come down here and get my butt kicked and
Yeah.
realize that I wasn't great and that I in fact wasn't very good at all and that I needed to get to work. Because we all come from these small ponds where we're the big fish, and everybody goes around and kisses our ass and tells us how great our songs are and stuff, and then you come to Nashville and the guy that's selling newspapers on the side of the road is a better songwriter and picker than you are, and
Yeah.
that's the town that you live in. It's the best songwriters in the world. Although I don't know if we've done a tremendous job of displaying that over the last 15 years, but nonetheless,
Understood.
the best songwriters in the world are still here. They're in Texas too, without question.
In some ways, what everyone perceives of Nashville is actually kind of a not really the true Nashville.
No, for sure, it's not, and I think it all comes back to what does your career need.
Right.
What do you specifically like? You need to be down there mixing and mingling, and connecting and networking because you're trying to do this top 40 deal. You're trying to get a publishing deal. You're trying to do all that stuff, or are you trying to build something outside of that?
Just
And pretty quickly on, I realized that one, the money is not here. It's if you're going to make any of it playing songs, it's very you can do it here. It is extremely difficult, but and also to find people that are not overly exposed with what you're doing, and that's why I spend so much time in the Midwest and stuff like that, in places where not only do they have a great appreciation for it, but it's just not so as saturated as and I'm a Southern guy. I'm from North Carolina, so but and I love the South and I love playing in the South, but it's just they're like, wow, this is something really unique. This is something special, and the venues treat it like that as well because they're not overexposed with it either. So
you moved to Nashville. You kind of kind of got the Nashville experience, and then you decided you wanted to try to write songs and play them for people and everything. How did one? I'm sure that's a stressful change in some ways, but I'm sure exciting too. But how did you? What was your first step in making that happen?
It started out by basically just killing myself. I was working a full time job and playing 4 shows a week, and just around the Middle Tennessee area. They were all 4-hour sets for about $100, and it sucked really bad for a long time. And you just kind of get there. You have to do that though. At least I had to, to learn how to entertain, and to learn how to, to do all those things and play the cover songs that everybody wants to hear and kind of just that whole deal. But it was a very much a cut in your teeth type of process for about 6 years of just, and even before I started branching out and everything and doing different states, it was still just high set times, really low money, and just trying to get anybody that I could get in to listen and then sprinkle some of my stuff in. And I kept just doing that, and year after year I would take less covers out and put more of my own stuff in. And that whole process until I finally, we were talking about him earlier, and Jason Eady. The best piece of advice that I probably ever got is that me and him were up in New York, and I asked him. I was like, how do you get out of playing these 3-4 hour sets and like playing these bar gigs and everything? Like, I just I can't make it make sense how I'm going to be able to do that to get to that next level. He goes, well, I just decided to. And I was like, really? I was like, you just decided to, huh? I was like, okay, well, I'm going to decide to as well. And so that's what I did. I just started going and playing. I wasn't going to do anything above 2 hours, and it was going to be an all original show. And however it goes, it goes. But from then on, it was, I'm going to do my show, and then, whatever happens after that happens. And man, everything started changing in such a positive way after that. But it took me a long time to get 90 minutes, 2 hours worth of material that did not make me want to throw up. And I felt that was decent from beginning to end, and that's an ongoing, process of where you're at in your songwriting and all that stuff as well. But, getting to this place to me was making it to where I can go and tour full time and people will show up just to hear my stuff.
Well, I got to witness, the North Spring crowd singing your songs back to you. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a extremely cool thing to happen, especially after the rough times.
Sing it to me now, come on. Well, I've been living on the highway. Yeah. I've been feeling a low way. The highway never seems to lead me home, but I can't seem to quit it, trading miles for minutes and my youth for cowboy songs. I've been living on the highway, and highway too long. I've been living on the highway, saying, and highway. Yeah, baby.
So,
Yeah, man, that whole thing is just something like really new for me. Like, that's just now, like, I've made a couple rounds through the country with these songs now, and it's and that area especially has just been so good to me. In that area outside of Nashville, and especially there around Gainesboro and stuff like that. But I'm really, like, even in Ohio and Indiana, Missouri, like, I'm starting to see some really good movement there with some of the songs. But that's all really fresh and really new. I enjoy doing the intimate style shows. I like listening rooms, 100 person listening rooms. Like, I just have so much fun with that, and that's where I feel like is my comfort zone for what I can do just from an entertaining perspective. But yeah, man, it's obviously something special. I don't take it for granted because, like I said, I've played to a lot of bartenders and a lot of people eating dinner that did not care if I was on fire or not. So it's neat for sure.
yeah. One of the things I like to ask is, like, when you do these gigs where you're, whether it's at like North Springs or if you're doing a gig with Eady or someone like that, and the crowd is made up of possibly some folks that know who you are, but also folks that don't. When you can tell they're digging what you're doing, and the light bulb goes off, like, well, how's that feeling from your point of view?
Man, there's really nothing better than that for sure, and really just the anticipation of being, being around like-minded fans and stuff like that, like people that get what you're doing.
Understood.
That's why you try to go and play shows with Jason Eady, because Jason Eady fans,
Gotcha.
or Adam Hood fans, they're going to understand what you're doing, you know, and so
yeah.
that's what's so cool about this whole culture of this independent thing, because you know it's not like you have a bunch of people that are like, I'm just a Turnpike Troubadour fan and that's all I'm ever going to be, and I could never like the Red Clay Strays, you know. No, it's like, dude, like if they come to town, I'm coming to see them, and then when Jinx comes to town, I'm coming to see him, because we're all part of the same, like, you know, thing. You know, obviously there's some bigger than some others, but we all kind of play our part and on the independent circuit, and people support that, man. And it's a really, even though I'm a very small part of it, it's a really fun thing to be a part of.
I'm sure you know that you have a chance when it's like if it's a you know, a Eady crowd or Hood crowd or whatever, you know, there's a chance they're gonna give you a chance at that point.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I think, like, you talk about, you know, guys can go on TV shows and stuff, and like they're you know, you can go on. Not that there's anything wrong with them. There's been a million people that have had, you know, success and done great things. But as far as like longevity, coming off the singing shows and things like that, it's like, you know, those fans are fans of that TV show. Or, you know, these fans are fans because they like this type of social media. Like, it's always like, I feel like you're always looking for the right type of fans. And when you start meeting like these Americana, independent, traditional country music fans, like there's no more, like they're like NASCAR fans in the 80s. Like they're about as diehard as it gets. And if you speak their language, like they will love you for it. And I love them for it. And that's just a really cool and unique thing about our business.
What about I don't want to say, it's not necessarily the right words, but being accepted by those guys that you were talking about. From an outsider, it seems like if you're pounding the pavement and you're putting in the work and you're not trying to pass someone by taking a shortcut, they let you in.
Yeah. You know, man, I think it's all earned, right? You know, that they can spot what's real and what's fake, because they had to do the exact same thing that we're all doing right now. You know, whatever the next, you know, and the same thing for them, right? Is like, you know, we think about great songwriters like Towns and John Prine and stuff like that. Like, the guys that we're talking about are the next Towns and John Prine. Like, they're just not old enough where people like appreciate them, you know, like that necessarily. You almost got to die to be able to.
You're right.
But it's the same thing with coming up and stuff too. It's like if you don't think these guys didn't play to empty rooms and empty chairs and drive all through the night and play 4-hour cover sets, you know, shows and stuff like that, of course they did. Of course they had to do that. And so when you do that, like they recognize that look in your eye of hunger, of want to, of desperation, of all those things, because they've had that same look in their eye, you know. And so and they know when you don't have it, and when you are, you know, all had cattle, or you know.
Yeah. Because I'm sure they, you know, if you haven't spent nights in your car and like you said, played the empty rooms and all of that, not that I'm sure there are exceptions to all the rules, but still, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, man. Some people are so good they don't have to pay their dues, man, and that's just the world.
But that is more. You know, I'm sure that still gets a pass from those guys because they're like, okay, that's legit. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we get that. Well, let's make sure we talk about your latest album. Can I give me a rundown on that? And one is really good. I heard you play The Highway from live. I'm gonna try to add that clip at the end of the from North Springs. I'm gonna try to put that at the end of this podcast too.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's kind of give me a rundown on the album, where it was made and who helped you and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my this is my sophomore album. It's called Dangerous Men, and really, this album kind of started with my first album, Dark Side of the Mountain. It was kind of I guess, a growth more or less from that in my evolution of just my love for story songs and specifically dark story songs, and so, I wanted to have kind of a full record of that, of just like it's most definitely a concept album of just the different ways that you can be a dangerous man through life. You don't have to be Robin Banks to be dangerous.
Right.
You don't have to be doing something bad to be dangerous. Somebody that is strong in their faith, strong in their beliefs, and won't listen to any kind of outside noise, that's a dangerous person right there. Like, and so there's a lot of that in the record. This was I believe my fifth project that I've done. I've done a couple EPs in the past that are no longer in circulation, but David Flint was producer on all this stuff, had unbelievable pickers and stuff on the record as well. Was really thankful that more than my mother bought this one, and we were able to get it to go #2 on the iTunes country charts, which is
Right.
anytime you can do things like that as an independent, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really special, and the response to it has just been great. Oh yeah, you mentioned earlier Highway. Alex Williams, probably one of the best independent artists walking on 2 feet these days. And speaking of the old days, like, he got me a job at the Ford dealership. Like, back in the day, me and him would show up in the back of a parts warehouse, and hungover, listening to Eady records or Waylon records or whatever, and sit back there and drink coffee, and somehow we didn't get fired. But I was fortunate enough to have him come and sing Highway with me on
Mm-hmm.
this record. It kind of just, we've both rowdied on down a little bit, I would say.
Right.
Um, but it kind of paid tribute to our younger days touring, especially in our early 20s and stuff. So that was all super special. Like, every song on the record, like, really does mean a lot to me. It's kind of, it was a big step in a lot of ways. Luke DeJanes did a lot of great work on the mixing and mastering side of the record to kind of bring out some unique things. And yeah, man, it was a special project. I'm glad to have it out there right now. Of course, when you're doing this as an independent artist and you're funding this all independently, it takes a long time to do it. It
Right.
takes years to do it, from the writing to the production to all of that. And so now that the record's out, and what I put it out in March of this year, we're kind of getting to the end of this year, and I'm already itching to get some new stuff out as well. So we're starting to get the wheels turning on some of that. And so, but yeah, the response to Dangerous Men's been awesome. I've sold out about everything that I have of it, and so it's been cool, man.
Um, so I'm a big, I don't know if you can tell, my
Yeah,
screen is mirrored, but I'm a big vinyl records guy.
yeah,
Um,
me too.
Partially because it's just cool to be able to buy one at a concert and then somebody sign it too.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
But also as somebody that likes to play music, whether I'm good at it or not, I can't imagine how getting a boxes of my vinyl and my personal vinyl, and then
Yeah,
putting it on for the first time and listening to it. I know I'm saying this because I know you had vinyl for sale
yeah.
at North Springs. What how was that feeling for you when you know what I mean? You take the clear wrapper off and take your own vinyl out, and there's something romantic about it.
Dude, I'm with you. Like, I love records so much. There's a purity to it that just analog, that you just cannot get through streaming. The first thing that happens when we submit music to streaming is they just immediately compress the master that we sent them. And so, I always tell people when you're getting a record from us, when you're getting some vinyl, you're hearing the master how it was intended, not how Spotify, or one of the streaming companies crams it into their deal, more or less. And so that's kind of a very unique thing. But for me, man, it was special. And I'll tell you something even cooler than that was, taking it, on the road. I'm always searching for different record shops and stuff like that. And when I find one, I'll go in there and I'll be like, hey man, like I'm coming through town. I'm playing a show up here tonight. I've got a couple records. Like, you want to stock them in the store? Just for me to have records in a record store. I'm such an old school guy that, like, that to me is just like everything. I don't care if they sit in that store until it closes or until the aliens come. It doesn't really matter if anybody buys them. The fact that I've got records in a record store is a cool deal.
Just like the what was it, the Jamie Johnson line, somewhere between Jennings and Jones? Just the fact of being there, right?
Let me show you something real quick. I got something to show you.
Okay.
So I was playing just outside of, or playing in St. Joe, Missouri, and there's this awesome record store there. I'm going to give them a shout out. It's in the back of this antique mall. It's called the Cool Cat Music Exchange.
Okay.
And man, it's got to be like some of the best quality stuff that I've ever seen. Like, just super rare stuff that you can't find everywhere. And I found a sealed Shooter Jennings live at Billy Bob's.
Okay.
I think they only printed like 300 of these.
Yeah, I didn't know that existed in general. So
Exactly.
It's not something I've heard on Spotify. I'm not sure.
I know, man. It was so unique, so cool. I went on eBay and they are going for a lot more than $18. It was a good find, but shout out to them, man. I love finding stuff like that. And if you do go check them out, they've got a few copies of Dangerous Men over there,
right.
as well, that you can grab. So
yeah, that's cool. I think, let's see, who was it? We were talking to, goodness, I'm going blank here. Who was, Brent Cobb about getting headed to LA and working with Shooter.
yeah,
And, I think as a fan, I really like those albums, like the Putting the Oback in the Country and all those albums, but I didn't really realize, just as a fan, how many people in the business really, as what Brent said, he said that may not like have been a big stone in the lake, but it started the ripple for everyone else, and
absolutely.
He seems to have a whole lot of respect for, like, he's not just Waylon Jennings' son.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he has a ton of respect from everyone in the industry. Which is,
yeah, and like, people don't, you start looking at the liner notes on records, and you start seeing a lot of Shooter Jennings and Ted Russell camp on everything. And, Ted's been with Shooter forever, and they've made some amazing records, and he's got a huge footprint in the independent game for sure. Or just the Americana country game, I would say. That's probably, that would rival that Dave Cobb kind of the imprint as well. So yeah, he's great, man, for sure.
Yeah, that is a unique situation, as far as someone that's had their own albums out there and they've done their own thing and still do. I think he still plays shows when he wants to.
Yeah.
But he has just as much of an influence, in a studio too, which is just that's a unique situation.
No doubt. I think that's just having being around it all your life, knowing what's good, knowing what's bad, and having to having that intuition as well to make things great. When you have that kind of wealth of knowledge, it's invaluable.
Well, also the in some ways you would think being in his situation would make it easier, that would open some doors, but a lot of those doors are not necessarily doors he would want to go through,
Sure.
because he's not trying to sound like Waylon. So yeah. So in other words, I guess my point with that is he's still got to be stubborn and have the guts that everyone else has to, he may not have to sleep on couches, but he's still got to get the rejection and the,
Sure.
all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's a unique thing that I never really thought about until Brant brought that up. But so one thing I want to talk to you about before we wrap up anything.
Yeah.
All right, so I know you and Eady and Hood and I'm trying to think of some others. You wear the hat.
Yeah.
What? How did the hat come about? I mean, I heard Adam talk about basically you feel weird putting on the hat for a while, but then it kind of becomes part of the show. Like how
Yeah, it's been a process for me, and I
Okay.
feel like I finally like landed on like things that fit me, because you just try stuff. You're trying to find something that's a personal extension of your music, of yourself, of your style. That pays tribute to all the things that you want to pay tribute to. And I've definitely been a ball cap guy and stuff like that. But as the careers advanced and stuff like that, and started getting on some different things, I started messing around, and
did you feel weird trying them the first time
yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not a cowboy hat guy for
Right.
sure, and it's really because I know cowboys, and I've got a lot of respect for them, and I'm no damn cowboy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't. I'm not throwing hate or shade on anybody that wears a cowboy hat, rock it all day long.
I'm having this conversation because I have the same thoughts. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and so then I tried wearing the Stetson Open Road, just like straight out of, and I really liked it, but it was probably, I had a fan tell me one time, she was like, Addison, your music's great, but you're gonna have a really hard time. And I was like, well, why do you say that? She goes, well, you're too country for Americana and too Americana for country. And that's always stuck with me. In fact, we put it on a T-shirt, and so I took my Stetson Open Road down to Standard Hat in Nashville. They got a place in Texas too, that everybody goes to
Right.
get custom hats made. But I took my Open Roads down there, and he kind of brought it in between. Dustin Kennedy called it Open Country. This weekend, it's no longer Open Road; it's Open Country, and that's what it is. It's not Americana, it's not cowboy. It kind of sits somewhere in between, and that's what feels most naturally me, and like what I'm trying to do, and who I am in general. But yeah, it is definitely and you have a little imposter syndrome trying on hats the first time, but man, you do things long enough and people just accept that's who you are, and that's what you do. I didn't have facial hair for a long time. I grew facial hair, and then everyone freaked out, and then I talk about shaving it off, and everybody freaks out because they're like, you can't shave, that's you have facial hair. So you keep something around long enough, it'll just become you, and it's fine.
It seems like that style hat is like you mentioned troubadour several times. Like to me that's what that means. That's the troubadour hat. That's not the cowboy. That's not the whatever. Yep. That's the singer songwriter.
Exactly.
I play whatever I want to kind of hat.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah, I feel like if you've slept in a van as much as I have over the last decade or so, I'm not calling myself a troubadour by any stretch, but like you can rock a hat if you want to.
Yeah, you've earned that. Yeah,
yeah. At least that little piece, maybe.
It's like that's when you should be like, ma'am, I haven't had a shower in 3 days. I don't think my hat matters.
Yeah, yeah, man. As long as it feels good and you feel good in it, that's all that really matters, you know. And I think what what your style says and everything is really important as well, and how it kind of goes along with it with your music. And you know, to some people it matters, to some people it don't matter at all, and that's okay. It's all okay whether you just want to rock a t-shirt or you want to rock a pearl snap, whatever
Yeah.
you feel good in, man.
Yeah, understood. Understood. Um, I'm sure that probably sounds like a weird question to folks
No, I like
that don't try to play, but people that try to play probably understand that. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Whether
no,
it's a cover gig or a whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because there's a fine line between trying to be George Strait and being you playing a George Strait song. So,
sure, no
um,
doubt, man. And I think a lot of that is you know, and I think pretty much any artist will tell you this is like it's all an evolution. Like I think you eventually get comfortable with who you are
and yeah,
and like what you're doing, and then that's where you find like your true style. But you do a little experimenting, I think, getting to that place, and that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's okay. It just makes the pictures really embarrassing when you go back and look at them. But outside of that, I think it's okay.
well, that's always the case, right? Teenage pictures and anything else.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so we'll do a couple quick kind of rapid fire questions.
Yep.
I usually have a co-host.
Yep.
I'm gonna introduce you to him later. He's a Texas guy, DFW guy. That's the Texas and the Texas Tennessee.
Yeah. Awesome.
And one of the questions he asked is, what would be your because the answers are all over the place, to be honest, what we've had so far. What would be your ideal green room?
Oh, yeah. For sure. You know, I like you know, like the one at the Vogue in Indy is pretty cool because they've got a whole couch deal and a full kitchen and like a TV. Like I like the really funky old ones and stuff like that, like too. And I love the school buses. Like I like them all. I think they're all super unique. But you know, man, like I like. It kind of calms me down a little bit if I can go down there and watch the game a little bit or something, you know, beforehand, just chill out and
The ones that are a little more like home.
yeah, yeah, for
That's,
sure. As long as it don't, you know, as long as it don't smell like bo, I'm not a hard man, please. So
what's something that would be in the green room? Do you have a preference on anything? No.
yeah, I'm pretty simple these days. You know, but back in the day, it would have definitely been. You know, I'd had whiskey on the rider or whatever, but
Hmm.
now I just keep it. I keep it to bottled water for the most part, just really simple, really boring. So
Understood. Understood. That means you've done some living in the past. Um, all right. What was your first concert that you went to as a child? And then what was your first concert that you, as either a teen or an adult that you paid for, that you chose, that you went to?
yeah, I think I was trying to think what my very first was. I'm sure my grandmother took me to some country music stuff as a kid. I think I think me and my brother, me and my step brother went to a Lincoln Park concert when I was like in the sixth grade.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I'll never forget. I took this girl to the North Carolina Ag Fest, and I paid like $15 for tickets. You know, $15 a piece for tickets, and we sat like 20 rows back center. And I look back on this show now, and I'm just like, holy smokes, what a show! They had this little band that was on one of their first tours they were opening the show. They were called Blackberry Smoke. I'm not sure if you've heard of them before, but yeah, they were kicking off the
They're
show.
doing okay these
Yeah, yeah,
days. Yeah.
pretty solid. And then they had this other guy behind him. He had just had like either his first record come out or something. Had a long beard, kind of looked like a yeah. He was a little more clean cut then, but you know, Jamie Johnson. He was after them, And then this dude came up that was wearing a top hat, and he had been playing in Western North Carolina a bunch and was just on his first record deal, and that was Eric Church right there. And and then I think it was Blake Shelton and Tracy Bird or something like that. I mean, it was just like, for what we paid and where we sat, it was an unbelievable show. So that was probably the first one that I went and spent some money on.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot. Mine as a young kid was Sawyer Brown was the first one ever at a fair, and then the first one that I paid for was I think it was Candlebox.
There you go.
Candlebox. Yeah, so it's it's all over the place, but
absolutely.
Well, all right, man. I appreciate the. I almost forgot. I do this when I'm by myself. I forget the most important question. This started out as a joke on the very first episode, and now it is a requirement that we ask this, and I almost dropped the ball. So, what is your favorite Little Debbie cake?
Oh, zebra. It's not even close. Zebra cakes.
Zebra cakes? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. My great grandfather wore Liberty overalls every single day of his life. Never had a hair on his head or a tooth in his mouth. But I think every time I went over there as a kid, he had zebra cakes, Coca-Colas in the glass bottles, and those little mini Reese's cups in a big jar right there. And so zebra cakes has always been the one. If that hasn't got canceled by anybody yet, I'm not sure.
No, they're still rolling. This time of year they turn into Christmas tree cakes, but it's still the same.
I know.
It's still the same thing. All right, man. Well, if so, anybody that's watched this thing, make sure you go follow Addison on all of his socials. Go follow wherever you stream your music. Hit the follow button. When they ask you to pre-save songs, they're not just doing that for any reason. It helps them. There's a thing called an algorithm that unfortunately exists, and so part of the game is things like that. It helps everyone involved to do so. It doesn't cost you anything to pre-save that on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you do your stuff, but it helps get the ball rolling before the album even drops or the song even drops. So if you have anything else come up, definitely we can do this thing again. I enjoyed it.
Going in the studio at the beginning of December and getting ready for hopefully a really big 2025 here. Gonna have a new single, I think, probably in the first couple months of 2025, and then I think I'm already starting to book for May right now, and working on a bunch of Europe stuff as well. So we're off and running. Really appreciate what y'all are doing here, man, shining a light on kind of us smaller guys and giving us a chance to tell our stories and be heard. So I really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, and look forward to talking to you here soon.
Yes, sir. Anything new that comes up, even if it's not coming on here, we'll share whatever we can. Like I said, anybody that follows these artists like this on socials, comment, share, like. It like I said, it doesn't cost you anything, and it helps everyone. It helps everyone involved. So, all
Absolutely.
right, Addison, we'll talk to you later.
See you, buddy.
In life, and I settled on broke singer-songwriter instead. I don't recommend it. It does not pay as well, but I am from North Carolina and really bad at math. So it is what I had to settle on. And so here's my tornado song right here, guys. It's called F5. He left work early, saw the sky in the south. Radio said Broken Bow had seen a funnel cloud. He kept calling his wife, but the phone just rang. And you can't play with thunderstorms in Oklahoma in the spring. And there was hail from the heavens, and trees bowed to the ground. It was dark in the distance when he got to the house. He walked down the hallway Saw the clothes on the floor, it kinda looked like a twister. Went through their bedroom door, and the walls were shaking, but it wasn't the wind